Hello everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little guys. They're emperor penguins and they're made out of polymer clay. These guys are perfect as keychains or as bag charms, decorations, or just as gifts. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different in this tutorial. We're going to start by just making a base penguin shape and then we'll go on to decorate that base shape later. This makes projects like this pretty good for using up scrap clay, because all the clay you initially use to form your penguin shape will be covered up by the end. So it doesn't matter if it's dirty or a combination of lots of different coloured scraps, because you won't see any of them by the time the project's done. So I'm just going to use some scrap white clay to form my penguin base. This clay is very dusty and it's not very useful for any other projects, so I'm going to use it for this guy. And to make the emperor penguin's body, I'm rolling the clay out into a fat oval shape. I'm pinching one end of the oval shape down to make it a little bit smaller, and this will be where the head will go. And for the other end of the oval, I'm pinching and pulling out a flat piece of clay, which will be the penguin's little stumpy tail. To make his head, I'm taking a smaller piece of scrap clay, rolling it out into a ball, and then pinching gently out where I want his beak to be. Because the beak is a long, thin piece of clay, it makes it a weak point, so in order to make sure it won't break, I'm just going to strengthen it with a bit of wire. This wire that I'm using is just the excess from a head pin that I've cut down, but you could also use something like florist's wire. So I'm just pressing the wire into the head and then pulling clay from the head around the wire so that it's completely covered, and just shaping it a little bit so that it forms the penguin's beak. Again, to add a bit of strength and to make sure that the penguin's head won't fall off at any point, I'm pushing a small piece of wire into the top of the neck, leaving a little bit exposed, and then pushing the head onto the exposed piece of wire. Next, I'm just forming his flippers by taking two small balls of scrap clay and pressing them into the rough ovally shape that I want. You can also use a flat blade to help you shape the flippers a bit better if you want to. Then I'm just pressing them gently onto the sides of his body, a few millimeters below where his head joins. And that's it! The penguin base shape is finished. Because I want this little guy to be a charm, I'm just pushing a head pin through the body and the head, and then it's off to the oven to bake for around 20 minutes. Okay, so while our penguin base is baking, it's time to think about how you'd like to decorate your penguin base to look like an emperor penguin. And I've got two options here, which are both just as effective as each other and both look really good. So yeah, it's up to you what you want to do. The first option is you can paint your penguin base, just using some acrylic paints. You could even do a special design for his belly, just some rough sketches of, some patterns you could paint onto his belly. The second option, which is what I prefer, and generally what I do with most of my clay pieces of this nature, is to decorate the penguin base with polymer clay and some Vimo Deca gel. So this way you can also add texture. I know that we just baked the blank base and it was smooth, we didn't really think about any texturing, but by using clay you can add some three-dimensional texture, which is something I also quite like to do with my pieces. So yeah, that's the option that I'm going to show you in this video, but painting them with acrylic paints is also a great option and would look really effective. I recommend looking at a few pictures of the colouring of emperor penguins. This is just a sheet from a penguin page of my reference photo book that I've made. Got puffins there as well. But just looking at where and what shapes their colours go in. So I've got a bit of orangey yellow for those sections, got some black for their head and their beak and the trim around their bellies, and also I've got some grey for their backs. And also I'm going to use some pearl white. You can't really see that it's shiny in this clip, but that's going to go on top of their bellies. So it's really up to you how you want to decorate this penguin, and you can go wild, let your imagination take you to wherever. I mean, you don't even have to stick with these colours. If you want to make your emperor penguin blue and purple and pink and green, then, you know, go for it. It's completely up to you what you want to do. And I think they'd also look pretty cool, some funky penguins. So I'll just go fetch them out the oven and we'll get started with the clay method of decorating our penguin bases. Okay, so the basis for this clay method is really simple. All you need to do is apply a bit of deco gel or any translucent liquid clay to the area you want to decorate. Take some clay in the colour you want and rough it up a bit with a pointed tool like I'm doing here, and then just place your roughed up bits of clay onto the deco gel. I'd recommend doing just one colour at a time and baking after you finish with each colour, only because it helps to keep your clay clean and avoids getting little specks of different colours in your clay. So this is what he looks like after adding all the orangey yellow coloured clay. A little bit like a clown, I think. And this is him after all the grey clay is added, so now he looks more like a clown wearing a jacket. And then for the black parts of the penguin, I'm actually going to do something slightly different. Instead of roughing bits of clay up and then sticking them on, I'm just going to lay over smooth pieces of clay and spread them out gently with the flat edge of my pointed tool. I really like textured pieces, so to make the smoother parts of the penguin look more interesting, I'm just going to run a ball tool over the top of them. This is what he looks like with the black pieces added, finally actually looking like a penguin now. The last colour I'm using, and I'm just roughing this clay up again, is a pearl white colour, and that's just going to go on his fuzzy belly. There we go, belly finished. Okay, so he's nearly done. All that there's left to do now is just to give him two little eyes, and to make those I'm just rolling two tiny little balls of black clay and flattening them out slightly on either side of his head, then rolling out two even tinier balls of white clay and just flattening them in the top third of his eye to be the shine, and then it's back to the oven for a final bake. To finish him off, I'm just going to give him a coat of glossy glaze all over, and then he's ready to be used as a charm. This is his brother who I made earlier, and you can see that he makes actually quite a cute little keychain. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.